10 most haunted places in Japan. Terrifying horror stories and dark legends. Japan, a land of ancient traditions and deep-rooted beliefs, is also home to some of the most chilling haunted locations in the world. The veil between the living and the dead is said to be thin here, and in these eerie places, the supernatural thrives. Let me take you on a journey, but beware, the stories you're about to hear may follow you long after they're told. 1. Aokigahara Forest, the Sea of Trees. The dense and almost unnaturally quiet Aokigahara Forest lies at the base of Mount Fuji. Known as the Suicide Forest, it's infamous for its tragic history. As the legend goes, a traveler named Yuta wandered into the forest after losing his family. He felt the overwhelming urge to leave the world behind. Yet as he tied the noose to a tree branch, he heard soft whispers all around him. The voices grew louder, accusing him, crying out his name. When his body was discovered months later, his face was frozen in a horrified scream, as though he'd seen something unimaginable in his final moments. Many believe his restless spirit is among those who haunt the forest, forever trapping new victims. 2. Himeji Castle, Okiku's Well. Himeji Castle is a marvel of Japanese architecture, but it hides a sinister secret: Okiku's Well. Okiku was a loyal servant accused of stealing precious plates. Though innocent, her master threw her into the well, drowning her in cold water. To this day, her spirit is said to emerge from the well at night, counting to 9, never 10. Visitors have reported hearing her mournful cries and seeing a ghostly figure cloaked in white, her wet hair clinging to her face. If you visit, tread carefully, for Okiku's vengeance knows no bounds. 3. Inunaki Village, the Lost Village. Deep in the mountains of Fukuoka lies a place whispered about but rarely seen. The so-called Inunaki Village is said to exist outside the rules of modern society. According to legend, signs near its entrance warn, "The Japanese Constitution does not apply here." A group of curious adventurers once dared to enter. What they found was a ghost town, buildings rotting and eerily silent. One by one, they disappeared, leaving only a single survivor who babbled incoherently about shadowy figures and distant screams. The village's exact location remains a mystery, as though the land itself shifts to hide it. 4. Oiran Buchi, the Courtesan's Abyss. Oiran Buchi, a bridge in Yamanashi, has a dark history soaked in betrayal. During the Edo period, courtesans working in the area were lured to the bridge and massacred to keep their secrets hidden. Legend says their anguished screams echo in the gorge below, especially on windy nights. Some hikers claim to see spectral figures standing on the edge of the bridge, staring into the abyss. Others say they feel unseen hands pushing them toward the edge. 5. Nakagusuku Hotel, the Cursed Resort. The Nakagusuku Hotel in Okinawa was meant to be a luxury getaway. However, construction was abruptly halted when workers started reporting terrifying encounters: disembodied voices, tools moving on their own, and shadowy figures stalking the halls. The owner's desperate attempt to prove the site was safe ended in tragedy when he was found dead on the property. Now the skeletal remains of the hotel are a ghost hunter's dream and a nightmare for anyone who dares to stay after dark. 6. The Round Schoolhouse, Hokkaido. In the remote wilderness of Hokkaido stands a round schoolhouse, abandoned yet filled with stories of the supernatural. Locals say the school was built on cursed land, and students often reported seeing shadowy children with empty eyes. One teacher who stayed late to grade papers heard footsteps in the hallway. When she looked up, she saw a pale child staring through the window, despite being on the second floor. By the time she ran outside, the figure had vanished. The school's circular design is said to trap spirits, causing them to wander endlessly. 7. Yurei Mansions, Tokyo, Tokyo, a bustling metropolis, hides its share of haunted sites. Yurei Mansions are notorious apartment buildings where residents report ghostly encounters. One tenant, Ayumi, claims she woke every night to see a woman in a white kimono standing at the foot of her bed. The woman's hair dripped water, forming a puddle on the floor that vanished by morning. Tenants frequently break their leases, unable to endure the hauntings. 8. Doryodo Ruins, Saitama. The Doryodo ruins were once a peaceful temple, but after a horrific murder, they became a place of fear. A young woman's body was found mutilated on the grounds, and since then, her restless spirit has been sighted wandering the area. Hikers report feeling an icy chill and hearing faint cries. One group even claimed to see a bloodied woman beckoning them deeper into the woods before disappearing. Ninth, Rokurokubi urban legends. Rokurokubi, yokai with stretching necks, are said to haunt specific areas in Kyoto. One legend tells of a woman who unknowingly married a Rokurokubi. Every night, her husband noticed her neck elongating as she fed on the life force of small animals. When he confronted her, she vanished, leaving behind only a haunting laugh. To this day, strange sightings of long-necked figures persist in the area. 10. Mount Osore, the Gate to Hell. Mount Osore, with its volcanic landscape and sulfuric air, is considered a gateway to the afterlife. Mediums often gather here to communicate with the dead. Visitors have reported seeing spectral lights floating over the hot springs and hearing faint voices calling their names. One chilling account tells of a man who visited seeking closure with his late wife. Instead, he encountered her apparition near the river, warning him to leave immediately. He fled, never looking back. The unanswered questions. These stories leave us with a lingering sense of dread. Are these places merely the result of vivid imaginations and ancient folklore? Or do they truly connect our world to something beyond comprehension? Perhaps the next visitor to these haunted locations will uncover the truth or become part of the legend. The concept of supernatural and scary phenomena refers to events or occurrences that cannot be explained by natural laws or modern science. These may include ghosts, spirits, aliens, mysterious forces, or otherworldly experiences that give the impression that humans are not alone in this universe. It reflects the belief that there are other forces or beings, unseen but coexisting with us. Reasons supporting this idea. 1. Cultural stories. Across the world, cultures have shared tales of supernatural beings, such as jinn in Islamic tradition, ghosts in Western lore, or evil spirits in Asian cultures. 2. Personal experiences. Many individuals claim to have experienced strange occurrences, such as hearing unexplainable sounds, seeing unusual shapes, or sensing an unseen presence. 3. Energy and mysterious forces. Some believe the universe is filled with invisible energies that influence our daily lives, both positively and negatively. 4th, science's limits. There are phenomena that science has yet to explain, leaving room for supernatural interpretations. The other forces alongside humans. Jinn. In Islamic belief, jinn are invisible beings created from smokeless fire who coexist with humans in this world but remain unseen. Spirits. In some traditions, it's believed that the spirits of the deceased linger in the world, either to seek vengeance or help the living. Aliens. Some theories suggest intelligent life exists beyond Earth, observing or interacting with humans in mysterious ways. Mysterious energy. Certain people believe in invisible energies or entities that influence emotions and the surrounding environment. Tobernon. Why are humans afraid of this idea? 1. Fear of the unknown. By nature, humans fear what they don't understand or cannot see. 2. Feeling of helplessness. The notion of supernatural forces implies a lack of control over our world. 3. Stories and media. Folklore and modern media amplify these fears by portraying supernatural beings as constant threats to humanity. The world is filled with mysteries that we haven't fully uncovered. Whether you believe in these forces or consider them myths, such phenomena remain a part of the collective human consciousness, reflecting our innate curiosity and desire to understand what lies beyond the visible and the familiar. And this is a true testimony of one of the stories. I met a demon on the Tokyo subway. This story is a retelling of something that happened to me when I was 7 years old. As the years have gone by and I've grown up, I've realized that the story cannot possibly be true, yet I can't shake the feeling that it is. It happened in Tokyo in the subway station. I was standing with my father when I saw the demon, a monstrously tall and furry creature with leathery black wings and a snout like an anteater. I must have stared at him for close to 10 minutes before he finally spoke, in a soft mutter that was clearly intended for his ears only. "This human is creeping me out," he said. "It almost looks like it's looking right at me." "I am looking right at you," I said. The demon nearly jumped out of his skin. "You can see me?" he asked. "Yes, can't everybody? Not unless they're in the fifth dimension." "Am I in the fifth dimension?" I asked. "Your mind must have slipped over here by mistake. What were you thinking about before you saw me?" I thought for a moment and then grinned. "Trains." "Oh, well, trains are the link between our dimensions. I guess your mind must have just wandered over here. Either that or you're going crazy." "I hope I'm not going crazy," I said. "Being crazy is a good thing in the fifth dimension," the demon replied. I laughed. "Do you have subway lines in the fifth dimension?" I asked. "Of course," he said. "How else would we get to work?" "You've got wings," I said. "Yes, but who wants to fly? Taking the train is so much faster, and if I fly to work, I'm all sweaty when I get there." "So what do you use your wings for?" I asked. "I put them over my head when it rains." "Can I see?" I asked. "Sure," the demon said. My hair blew back as he swooped his enormous wings over his head. I laughed again. "You're funny," I said. The demon laughed too, but then his expression changed. "Are you okay?" I asked. "You seem sad." "Yes, yes," the demon replied, not looking at me but at something behind me. "Say, would you like to see a magic trick?" "Okay." The demon reached up and tugged a big rainbow handkerchief out of his snout. He must have pulled out 20 feet before he ran out. "That's funny." I laughed, but I stopped when I realized I wasn't holding my dad's hand anymore. I looked around and saw the subway station had disappeared, replaced by flowing green meadows that were full of old trains. "I can't see the subway station anymore," I said. "That's okay," said the demon. "Sometimes it's better to see what isn't there instead of what is." "What do you mean?" "Sometimes when I'm bored or sad, my mind slips off to the third dimension, and I see people like you." "That's funny," I laughed. "Can you go to other dimensions too?" But the demon didn't answer. He was looking up at the sky. "It's starting to rain," he said, whooshing his wings up over his head. Warm droplets of rain hit my face. "Can I get under your wings with you?" I asked. "Not now," he replied. "You've got to go home." The world began to shimmer and flow together, like different shades of green and golden paint, spinning around faster and faster in circles. I started to feel a little sick, and I closed my eyes. The world stopped spinning, but warm droplets of water still fell on my face. I opened my eyes and saw my mom crying over me, but I didn't see my dad. "Where's Dad?" I asked her. "Did he bring me home?" "Yes, darling," she said, although she didn't look at me when she said it. "He brought you home, and then he had to go away." "Oh," I replied, "when will he be back?" "I don't know," she said. My dad never did come back, and it was years before I found out the truth. He had killed himself that day. That morning he had written a note to my mother explaining that he intended to bring me along and step in front of the train with me. My mother found it when she got home from work and called the police, but it was too late to stop my father. The witnesses say that just before he jumped, I pulled away from his hand and ran off, fainting right after. But one of the witnesses, a little boy around my age, said that he saw something take my hand and lead me away from the speeding train. He said it was a monstrously tall and furry creature with leathery black wings and an anteater's snout. The second testimony for another story, I discovered a horrifying secret under a Japanese convenience store. I had always thought Japan would be the adventure of a lifetime, the allure of a new culture, different food, and an entirely different way of living was too much to resist. My job as an English teacher in a small town just outside Tokyo was perfect, giving me a chance to experience Japan in a way most tourists never could. One of the first places I discovered was the little convenience store down the street from my apartment. It wasn't a flashy 7-Eleven or a Lawson's, but a small, family-run place that had a quaint charm about it. The sign above the door read, "Kobayashi Mart," in fading red letters. Every morning I'd stop by for a coffee and a rice ball before heading to work. The first few months were blissful. I quickly fell into a routine and started recognizing the employees at Kobayashi Mart. There was Yuki, the shy girl who always smiled and bowed deeply whenever I entered. Then there was Kenji, a friendly college student who enjoyed practicing his English with me. But then, something strange happened. Yuki disappeared. I asked Kenji about her, and he shrugged, saying she had probably gone back to her hometown. New faces replaced hers behind the counter, but they never lasted long. At first, I didn't think much of it. High turnover is normal in convenience stores, right? One evening after a particularly grueling day at work, I went to Kobayashi Mart for some comfort food. A young man I'd never seen before was at the register. He looked terrified, glancing nervously at the trap door behind the counter that I had never noticed before. It struck me as odd, but I brushed it off as the jitters of a new job. I continued my nightly visits, and the pattern became impossible to ignore. Every few weeks, a new face appeared, looking more frightened than the last. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. One rainy night, curiosity got the better of me. The store was empty, save for the new girl at the register, who looked as though she might burst into tears at any moment. I pretended to browse the shelves, keeping an eye on her. After a few minutes, she opened the trap door and descended the stairs, leaving the store unattended. Heart pounding, I crept behind the counter and peered down the dark stairway. A faint, foul odor wafted up, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Ignoring every instinct to turn back, I carefully made my way down the steps, my footsteps muffled by the sound of the rain outside. The basement was dimly lit, and I could hear the girl sobbing quietly. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I saw her standing before a massive iron door, her back to me. The door creaked open, revealing a cavernous space beyond. She stepped inside and I followed, staying as silent as possible. What I saw next will haunt me forever. In the center of the room was a grotesque creature, its enormous bloated body covered in glistening scales. Rows of sharp teeth lined its gaping maw, and its eyes glowed with a malevolent intelligence. The girl stood frozen, paralyzed with fear. Before I could react, the creature lunged forward, and the girl's scream was cut short. I stumbled backward, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I turned and fled up the stairs, my mind racing with terror. I didn't stop until I was safely back in my apartment, locking the door behind me. My hands trembled as I tried to process what I had just witnessed. Kobayashi Mart was a front, a facade hiding something monstrous beneath the surface. The next day, I called in sick to work, my mind consumed by the horror of the previous night. I had to do something. But what? Who would believe me? The police, the locals. Everyone seemed oblivious to the sinister truth lurking beneath their feet. Days turned into weeks, and the nightmares plagued my sleep. I avoided Kobayashi Mart, opting for a longer walk to the nearest 7-Eleven instead. But the guilt gnawed at me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had to do something to stop this. Finally, I mustered the courage to return. The store looked the same as ever, but I knew better. Another new employee greeted me, her eyes wide with fear. I needed proof, something to show the authorities. As I browsed the shelves, I discreetly took out my phone and began recording. The trapdoor opened and she descended the stairs. I followed, keeping a safe distance. This time, I was ready. I captured every detail. The iron door, the cavernous room, the monstrous creature. I fled once more, but this time I had evidence. I took it to the police, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. They were skeptical at first, but the video spoke for itself. A raid was organized and Kobayashi Mart was shut down. The creature was captured, its existence hidden from the public to prevent mass hysteria. The town moved on, unaware of how close they had come to a living nightmare. As for me, I couldn't stay. The memories were too painful, the fear too real. I returned to the U.S., but the horrors of that small Japanese town will stay with me forever. I still see their faces in my dreams, the terrified employees, the monstrous creature. Japan was supposed to be an adventure, but it became a waking nightmare I will never forget.